few days ago, I asked Congress to defer consideration for 120 days of Israel's request for $10 billion in additional U.S. loan guarantees meant to help Israel absorb its many new immigrants.
President Bush ups the ante, taking on one of the nation's most powerful groups, the Israel Lobby.
And I'm up against some powerful political forces, but I owe it to the American people to tell them how strongly I feel about deferral.
He says he's bidding high in hopes of keeping the Middle East Peace Conference on track. It's likely to lead to one of the bitterest battles in Congress in years.
This is ABC News Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
It is certainly one of the most sensitive subjects of all for American Jews, the issue of support for Israel. For many Jews, Israel is more than just a symbol. It is a reassurance that after centuries of persecution, they now have a safe haven. And their support of Israel is more than emotional. American Jews have donated billions to Israel and contribute heavily to American politicians who look after Israel's interests. In fact, possibly only the gun lobby can surpass the Israel lobby when it comes to political support. It is this powerful political force that President Bush engaged today. He wants Congress to wait for 4 months, 120 days, before considering whether to guarantee $10 billion in loans for Israel. His reason? That loan guarantees might disrupt next month's Arab-Israeli peace conference. As correspondent Dave Marish reports, it has become a public and bitter dispute between two longtime allies.
We must give peace a chance. We must give peace every chance.
President Bush pledged again today to give his all for peace in the Middle East, even if it cost him a political war on Capitol Hill. At issue, his request for a 4-month delay in consideration of Israel's request that the United States co-sign $10 billion in loans to underwrite resettlement of Soviet Jews. The president fears those loan guarantees could finance new Jewish settlements in Israel's occupied territories.
Quite simply, a 120-day delay is not too much for a president to ask for with so much in the balance.
If Congress went ahead and passed those loan guarantees without waiting, the president promised he'd veto them.
We've come a long, long way. And we're close to being able to convene a peace conference that in turn would launch direct peace negotiations between Israel and the Arab states, something the state of Israel has sought since its inception. That a debate now could well destroy our ability to bring one or more of the parties to the peace table.
The president reiterated a request he'd made before in the face of busloads of pro-Israel lobbyists who argued their way across Capitol Hill today, telling congresspeople and senators the needs of Soviet immigrants just won't wait.
Now, Senator, I ask you one thing. Please help the doors from Israel stay open.
It's undeniably true that not many interest groups could have geared up in such large numbers on such short notice. But it's also true that at the end of the day, the pro-Israel lobbyists discovered that they could not yet guarantee that the loan guarantees had a veto-proof majority in Congress.
Well, I was heard today there were something like 1,000 lobbyists on the Hill working the other side of the question. We got one lonely little guy down here doing it. So,
the president's joking David and Goliath characterization of his struggle with the powerful Jewish lobby may be only a slight exaggeration, says one expert on that lobby's leading organization, AIPAC. But he adds, what a slingshot the president launched today.
What George Bush said today was the pro-Israel lobby's worst nightmare come true. The American president stood up before the American people and said that Israel's interests were not only incompatible with American interests, but they were an obstacle to American interests.
Caught in the middle, Senator Alphonse D'Amato, a loyal Republican who looks to George Bush for leadership, but to the largest Jewish constituency in America for votes for his re-election.
I would vote to support the loan guarantees. I would support a delay only if there is a structured compromise that would make available the loan guarantee monies at a particular period of time.
Also caught in the middle, Palestinians who thought people power, their birth rate advantage over Israeli Jews, would guarantee them eventual control over the West Bank and Gaza Strip. But that was before perestroika rewrote the equation. With the Soviet Union's political opening and economic collapse, more than 1 million Soviet Jews could emigrate, if Israel can afford to take them. If American loan guarantees pave their way to the Middle East, these immigrants can put people power on Israel's side. That's why Bush's threatened veto stirred such a strong reaction there tonight.
To say the Israelis are hopping mad would be an understatement. Most of the reaction I heard this evening would be unprintable. The Israelis are calling Mr. Bush foolish. They're saying he's picking a fight with a friend, taking up the sides of the Arab enemies of Israel, and he's no longer an honest broker in the peace process.
From the perspective of President Bush and Secretary Baker, they believe that the only way to get a real peace and real security for Israel is for all sides to make compromises, and that is something they claim Prime Minister Shamir has been absolutely unwilling to do.
If that sounds like a dangerous diplomatic deadlock, a prominent American Jewish leader says it isn't.
The president is the president of the United States. He has his concerns. We have ours. And reasonable people will express their concerns. That's what a democracy is.
Meanwhile, George Bush left no doubt today he was laying it on the line to Israel. Agree or disagree, it's time for a small state to follow its allied superpower.
So what I'm trying to say is, listen, to the degree America's judgment and leadership and matters, listen to what we say, how strongly we feel about this. And I think the people there will respond. I think the American people will respond.
Having sustained all 22 of President Bush's previous vetoes, Congress would be hard-pressed to override this one. But winning on his request for a delay may leave the president in a most difficult position. Unless his peace program is fully realized within 120 days, he may then find himself facing all the hard old questions and some angry new opponents utterly bereft of satisfying answers. I'm Dave Marish for Nightline in New York.
When we come back, we'll be joined by a prominent Jewish leader who's been lobbying for quick congressional passage of the $10 billion in loan guarantees to Israel, and by a Democratic congressman who supports the president's proposed delay of those guarantees.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by AT&T.
Did you know that the most valuable patent ever issued went to a small business owner, Alexander Graham Bell? Since then, AT&T has stayed on the cutting edge of communications. For example, AT&T just invented a new 800 service for small businesses. It uses your existing line and costs only $6 a month. At AT&T, almost half our business comes from small business. When you succeed, we succeed. Call about our 800 offer.
This is not the airport.
We'll get some directions. We'll get coffee.
Road to the airport? Airplane. Airplane.
You'll never get coffee and sweet and low.
Ah, sweet and low.
Great. 2 coffees.
Coffee. Coffee? In the cup.
Sweet and low. In 62 countries around the world, there's just no equal.
Spellbound Perfume from Estee Lauder, premiering exclusively at Rich's.
I know I made the right choice. That's one of the best things about it, because I know I'm investing my money in something that's worth it. My insurance has gone down incredibly. It has gone down a lot. It's comfortable, and it gets great gas mileage. It's wonderful. I haven't found anything about it that I don't like.
Test drive the economical Tercel at your Toyota dealer now.
The best thing is probably the way it looks. It's just really cute. I mean, it's me. I love it.
Thousands of women have D&C surgery every year, and it may be absolutely unnecessary. Why, most doctors don't know that.
Watch 2020 Friday.
Joining us now in our Washington studios are Stuart Eisenstadt, a prominent Jewish leader who was the domestic policy advisor in the Carter White House, and Democratic Congressman David Obey of Wisconsin, who strongly supports the Bush administration's request for a 120-day delay of the loan guarantees. Mr. Eisenstadt, I can see an awful lot of Americans out there saying, in effect, wait a second, we've got to support U.S. loan guarantees for all those failed S&Ls, the failed banks. We've got enough problems. We've got huge unemployment. Why do we need to guarantee $10 billion worth? It seems like an outrageously large sum of money for Israel.
Ted, I'd love to have a president who would have a major domestic agenda and would tackle some of these problems. The fact is, however, that this is in the U.S. national interest, and the reason is that 3 American presidents, President Carter, President Reagan, and now President Bush, have helped get Soviet Jews out of the Soviet Union and into the state of Israel. In addition, the number coming in, now 350,000 over 2 years, simply goes beyond Israel's capacity to absorb, and we have an interest in supporting the economy of our principal ally. And third, that money is going to be largely recycled to buying U.S. products. For example, U.S. home builders who have a recession here at home can build homes in Israel with this money. It is not a loan. It is only a guarantee which the U.S. taxpayer will never have to pay for.
And yet all the president is saying is not, I don't want to see that $10 billion go through. He didn't commit himself to the $10 billion, but all he's saying is, let's wait 4 months before we begin that debate because I need the time right now. That doesn't seem like an unreasonable request.
It really is unreasonable, and the reason it's unreasonable is, first of all, it ties for the first time humanitarian aid to political issues, and second is the context. The context is that in March, after Israel had shown enormous forbearance during the Scud attacks, the Bush administration asked Israel to wait until after Labor Day to submit this request. Now the reward it gets for that forbearance, for helping keep the alliance together, is yet another delay. At the same time, Egypt in March had $7 billion written off of its military debt for a token support. That doesn't seem to me reasonable at all.
Congressman Obey, let me come at this from the other direction now for a moment. It has been noted that the president is ironically taking a stronger position on this $10 billion loan guarantee than the Arab states with whom the Israelis will actually be negotiating. None of the Arab states had prior to today come out and said, we're not going to negotiate, we're not going to take part in this peace conference if that $10 billion loan guarantee goes through.
Well, it seems to me that's beside the question. The fact is that the president has asked the Congress for the delay. It seems to me that that card is now on the table, and I think it would do substantial damage to United States interest and to the prestige of the presidency, I might add, internationally, if the president was not supported in that request.
Well, forgive me for interrupting, but I don't see how it's beside the point when the president is making the argument that he's only doing this in the interests of peace, and if no one other than the president felt that this was going to interfere with the peace conference, how can you say it's beside the point?
I would simply say that neither you nor I are privy to what is happening in the conversations between the president, between Secretary Baker and other sources. I don't think that either you or I can say what, in fact, will be most conducive to lubricate that process, and I don't think that we know exactly what the Arabs have or have not said. I frankly don't care what the Arabs think. What I care about is that I think it is important for no country to get the idea that they can do an end run around the President of the United States to get foreign aid. I don't think any country has an automatic entitlement in our budget.
All right.
Yeah, the president has really manufactured this issue. There is not one shred of evidence, and indeed he was asked today at his press conference if the Arabs had demanded as a precondition that this money be stopped, and he did not say that they had. He's manufactured an issue and created a contentious issue when one did not exist before. This is hardly the way to deal with an ally, and indeed, I would say, Ted, it's counterproductive. If the president is really interested in the settlement freeze, Israel would be in a much better position to agree to that during the course of peace negotiations when the Arabs had made some concessions, rather than to prematurely reward them before the conference has ever started with a unilateral action.
Let me just jump in on the last point, however, that Congressman Obey made, and it is a point that carries some emotional wallop, I suspect, around the country, and that is the sense that here is, what is still, after all, a foreign country, thinking that it can make, to use Congressman Obey's phrase, an end run around the president and what he thinks is in our best national interest by going to Congress and putting on the squeeze.
That's not at all what's happening. As I indicated earlier, Israel did exactly what the president asked, which was to wait till after Labor Day to make their request. They've now made that request. The people who are up on the Hill lobbying are American citizens who have their own right to define what they believe to be in America's national interest. In the long run, what Congress does with respect to Israel and what it's done over 42 years of support is not because of 2.5% of the population who are American Jews, but rather because Israel has a strong body of support in the American public.
Gentlemen, we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, I'd like to pose to you, Congressman Obey, the question of what is going to happen in January. Let's say the president gets his 120-day delay. Why, in any way, will things be different? We'll continue our discussion in a moment.
If you order a suit designed around the way you're built, you have to wait about 2 months. If you want a house designed around the way you live, the wait is 2 years. But if what you desire is a car designed around the way you drive, you don't have to wait another day. The 1991 Acura Legend Coupe.
Hey, do it yourself means you have to do it.
Yourself.
That's the time to ask Ace.
The closet-made 58-inch wide closet organizer is $12.99 and insulate with Ace silicone sealant for $1.99 each.
Hey, Ace is a place. They need you guys.
Why put up with glasses that just don't fit? LensCrafters has so many ways to fit your snug points, like snug fit pads that flex to comfortably hug your nose. LensCrafters, better fit for greater comfort in about an hour.
Only Levitt, America's largest furniture chain, could offer this coast-to-coast sale. The combined buying power of 120 showrooms bring you unbeatable savings. For example, these Armstrong Country Fresh bedroom pieces are on sale at only $77. Twin headboard, nightstand, bachelor chest, small hutch, mirror, or chair. Other matching pieces also on sale now at the Levitts near you. Yes, you will.
There are lots of good reasons why most people buy their first Acura from Nally Acura. Lowest price, largest selection, most convenient location, peerless service, impeccable reputation, and of course the friendly, low-key Nally style. But there's an even better reason why they buy their next Acura from Nally. They know they made the right choice the first time. In Atlanta, Nally is Acura.
Her fingers went over the mold of his face. How perfect and foreign he was. How dangerous. This was the glistening, forbidden apple. She kissed him, putting her fingers over his face, his eyes, over his ears, to his neck. To know him, to gather him in by touch. Obsession for Men, Calvin Klein. Now your gift with any $27 Obsession for Men purchase. At Riches.
A school that's run like a business. Teachers are hired and fired based on merit, and kids get a good education. It's working in this inner city.
On 2020, Friday.
It's a continuing controversy. Tomorrow, should gays be barred from the military?
And on Friday the 13th, why you might avoid this creature on Good Morning America tomorrow.
Congressman Obey, maybe you can explain it to me. Here's what I heard the president say this afternoon. He was saying that he was requesting this, asking for this 120-day delay in the interests of peace. He was suggesting that this would help get the peace conference underway and would lead ultimately to a Middle East peace, which obviously is in everyone's interest. But what is going to be different come the beginning of January if at that time the $10 billion in loan guarantees is granted, or anything like it is granted, and the Israelis move ahead and they bring in all these immigrants from Russia and they continue to build the settlements? If it's a problem now, why won't it be a problem then?
Well, I don't know what's going to be different in January. What I do know is this. Right now, the president has told the country and told the world that in his judgment, we are better off to delay the debate on this issue for 120 days. I think we ought to take him up on it. I think I ought to point out that at the end of that time, even if the president is satisfied, I think there are a number of questions which members of Congress have to ask if we're to defend the interest of the taxpayer. We do not really know at this point exactly how that money is going to be used. We do not know exactly what economic policy the Israeli government is going to be following. So we don't know how much we will be underwriting of wasteful activities on the part of that government. It is going very far to ask Americans to support $10 billion for housing guarantees, for highway construction, for hospital construction, for job creation programs, when we don't have those same opportunities to the degree we'd like them here at home. And so I think that in addition to the president's questions, I think we have an obligation to ask questions so that we can make certain that we can actually tell the American people it's in the interest of the United States to provide that money.
Mr. Eisenstadt,
I think we will know a whole lot more about this program after the hearings that my committee is going to run than we know right now.
Mr. Eisenstadt, I'm told that a couple of months ago you met with Israeli Prime Minister Shamir, and you'll correct me if this information is wrong. I'm also told that you tried to talk them into a $2 billion deficit because you said ultimately the U.S. will pick up the tab for that. True or not?
No, my feeling is this. David well knows this from his budget and appropriations experience. This is only a guarantee of private lending. There is no risk that the American taxpayer will have to pick a nickel of this up. Israel has an impeccable record of always having paid its sovereign debt, and it will certainly repay this. So there is no exposure to the American taxpayer. In terms of the uses, it's going to be used...
We simply don't know that. We know that up to this point, Israel has repaid their debts, but often that has been because the United States has increased the aid to Israel so they could do so.
Ted, Israel has even gone a step further, and it is said that it is willing to pay a reasonable fee to absorb the cost of what little risk there is, so that there would be a complete wash on the budget. We're not talking about $10 billion going out. We're talking about private money that is guaranteed, and that guarantee will never have to be fulfilled by the U.S. government.
But the fact is we still have to put into the budget actual appropriated dollars which will squeeze out dollars for other programs. My advice to Israel is that the president in the end controls the situation in terms of how much we are actually going to have to put in the budget to cover that liability.
Let me I'm sorry, Congressman Obey, go ahead and finish, and then I just want to get one more quick question.
I would simply suggest that George Bush may not have supported every dollar that Israel ever wanted, but George Bush has supported every dollar Israel has ever gotten. And I think there's a message in that for the Israeli government, and I think the better part, I think the better judgment on the part of everyone would dictate that this argument be dispensed with. We get on to learning what's going to happen in the peace process, what's going to happen with respect to actual Israeli plans for this money, and let them make the best case for it.
All right,
so that
let me just jump in. Let me just jump in. I'm sorry. Let me just jump in for a moment because we only have a couple of minutes left. It seems to me, in listening to the president and in listening to you, Congressman Obey, that you both reflect what may be a new political reality, and that is the climate has changed. It's changed all around the world. There was a time when the United States really needed an ally like Israel in the Middle East. That was when there was a big bad Soviet Union and they supported the Arabs. That political climate has changed, and part of the message that's going out today from the president, from you, is, hey, things are different than they were. Is that what you're telling me?
What I'm simply, I want to remind people, I am the person who offered the amendment in the last cycle to provide $400 million in additional loan guarantees to Israel to resettle the first wave of Soviet Jews. I think it was important to do that. I would like to be helpful again, but I think the best way for me to be helpful is for the Israeli government to reach an accommodation with the President of the United States, I don't think that's too much to ask.
Ted, the reason that billions of dollars have gone to Israel over the years from a very generous United States is not because Israel was a great strategic ally and asset, although it is. It was rather the shared sense of democratic values which has bound the two peoples together and continues to and will continue to in the post-Cold War era. That's really the glue that holds this coalition and these sets of interests together.
Let me suggest to you, with all due respect, Mr. Eisenstadt, that you may have it backwards. I think that's what held us together emotionally, but the reason that the money was sent over in such huge quantities was for strategic reasons. We've got about 20 seconds for you to respond.
Well, again, I think that Israel continues to play an important strategic role. We have a basing role there, and that role is important. But I do think the shared sense of values is important, and more important right now, this is a historic moment in Israel's history. It is absorbing a wave of immigrants such as it's never seen before. The U.S. has always supported Israel in that respect, and I believe that Congress in the end will do so again, whether it's tomorrow or in 120 days.
Gentlemen, I thank you both very much. Stuart Eisenstadt, Congressman David Obey, good of you to be with us. In a moment, a view from the drawing board of cartoonist Renan Lurie.
It's true. More people choose more of each of these brands at Sears Brand Central than any other superstore. They thank you. We thank you. Now during our birthday bash, pop in for the biggest 46-inch TV buy around. Save $150 and get 2 free speakers with theater-like surround sound, plus 2 remote controls. Right now, only at Sears Brand Central.
On September 22nd, you'll get your first look at a new luxury sedan that was designed by a sculptor. Until then, photo opportunities will be limited. Watch ABC, September 22nd.
Tartar Control Aquafresh fights tartar. It makes you feel this fresh.
Only Tartar Control Aquafresh fights cavities, plaque, and tartar, all with one great Aquafresh taste. Tartar Control Aquafresh fights tartar.
And makes you feel this fresh.
I'm alive. Greg Hebert.
I'm alive. Cynthia Robb. We're alive. Debbie and Thomas James Hanrahan.
I'm alive. Chico Mendez.
To get more out of life, get airbags. See your Allstate agent for a list of cars with airbags.
I'm alive. William Hines. I'm alive. Michael Hines.
The first film ever to win all the major awards at the Cannes Film Festival is Barton Fink. It's a comic nightmare that will stir your imagination like no film in years.
Well, ain't that a kick in the head?
Barton Fink is hilarious.
I'm a writer.
5 stars, a masterpiece. 2 thumbs up. Barton Fink, rated R.
Now playing at select theaters.
We conclude tonight once again with the work of Renan Lurie, this view of the controversy over President Bush and the loan guarantees to Israel.
For more than 40 years, the United States has been Israel's closest friend in the world. And this remains the case, and will, as long as I am President of the United States. This is a friendship backed up with real support.
That's our report for tonight. I'm Ted Koppel in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
This has been Nightline.
Nightline is a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
America's watching ABC.
Hey, nice suit. Expensive?
Not at Burlington Coat Factory.
Designer dress. Cost a lot?
Not at Burlington Coat Factory.
Wow, great outfits. Cost your mom plenty?
Not at Burlington Coat Factory.
But why do they call it Burlington Coat Factory?
Because they have more B's than anybody.
Besides, ever try to say Burlington ladies, men's, kids, suits, shirts, sportswear, linens, dresses, furs, slacks, Coat Factory?
They come from every direction, then get together for a real good time on the Downtown Connector. But there is something you can bring to the party. The all-new Oldsmobile 88 Royale. Four-wheel independent suspension and traction control make the 88 extremely agile. Driver's side airbag, anti-lock brakes, and a powerful fuel-efficient V6 help keep you safe. All in luxury for 6. Test drive the 88 today. You don't have to be downtown to hit traffic. Lease for just $299 a month, but offer ends September 30th.
Bugophobia, a persistent, irrational fear of opening cabinets. Sears Pest Control's 7-step treatment will rid your home of bugs for a full year, because we go where the bugs go, like inside walls and under cabinets, behind drawers, under appliances, and outside, out-of-the-way places where bugs live. Call for a free inspection, Sears once-a-year Pest Control, and fight bugophobia.
Monica Kaufman, Don Farmer, coverage you can count on. Channel 2 Action News.
Tonight on Hard Copy.
Excuse me. Do you know Bruce Springsteen?
Victoria Howden was on the brink of success, but the beautiful actress had a secret life in the sex world, a secret romance with a married cop. Then she decided to marry a man she didn't love, and everything came crashing down.
She couldn't deal with Ron's suicide, and after seeing Charles do the same thing, I